This is our thoughts on the Wrexham documentary.
Are Wrexham setting a trend for players to go down to come back up?
We're going to talk about the high-profile transfers of the likes of Paul Mullin and Ollie Palmer too.
All right, Ant.
Chris.
How are we?
How are we?
How are we?
How are we, la?
Yeah, I might kick things off today. We're going to talk about Wrexham. There's some recent news that's gone around over the last few days. Some royalty dropped by at the racecourse. Both Ryan and Rob got the chance to meet both King Charles and Queen Consort of the United Kingdom. We've touched on Wrexham before in a previous video. Check that out if you haven't already. But kind of ask the questions. Basically, what is the work Ryan and Rob are doing there? You know, we think they've certainly put Wrexham on the map, but kind of like what else are they doing to bring the city and the club forward?
Yeah, I think also maybe touching a bit more specifically on the player side of things as well.
Yeah.
With this exposure coming through, obviously having things like royalty coming on by, what sort of impact does that have on other players or the players they currently have wanting to come and play for that club?
I guess like obviously now we're in the kind of last few weeks, there's been a lot of World Cup fever going on. Wales, who historically haven't always been the best team, have kind of stumbled on this generation where they are kind of doing quite well, and you know they made it to this World Cup. Unfortunately didn't get out of the group, but you know, it's obviously a great time to be in Wales in terms of football. But yeah, so, you know, we've got some news articles here we've seen whereby, you know, royalty have dropped by. Someone like the King will be pretty pleased on the global recognition a town like Wrexham's getting. I think us as football fans, we would be aware of Wrexham, or even just having ties to the UK and things like that. It's somewhere you might have heard of, but certainly a team that's on our radar. But yeah, so what do you think if you were a player yourself? Would you be, you know, a team like Wrexham is now about? Are you kind of at that level, maybe not championship level, but maybe like League One, League Two? Would a team like Wrexham interest you now, given everything that's going on? It shows over the last year whereby Ryan and Rob have come in. It seems like there's a little bit more on offer than a usual football club.
Most definitely. I think we've maybe seen things with Salford City as well, you know, with a class of 92, where maybe these ownership groups or things like that do bring this exposure to clubs, and maybe it sets this trend of players accepting, maybe taking a step back in terms of professional on the field to take a step forward longer term, but also off the field. I think Paul Mullin is probably the best example of someone, you know, going off what he said in the documentary. And again, documentary could be leading one way. A lot of family things did tie in and around that, led in that way. But, you know, you can't help but feel that he maybe saw some opportunities to, you know, get involved with Rob and Ryan and things like that. You know, they did have the documentary coming up. Can he invest in his public profile a bit more than he otherwise would have been able to playing previously? Things like that, yeah, definitely sort of increasing.
It goes against, I guess, the normal movements of a professional football player, whereby he was the top goal scorer in like the League Two. Someone in his position the next year is probably looking for a move to go up into the higher league. At the very least, remain in that division. He's actually gone down, you know, and the most basic thing as a footballer, you're looking to get better, you want to improve, you want to play at a higher level. That obviously comes with things such as salaries and income, endorsement deal if you're now in a bigger league, getting more exposure. This is now quite an interesting scenario whereby he's getting more exposure at a lower club purely because of the owners. You know, they've got deals with TikTok, they're drawing in a global audience, people from America who are big fans of them as actors. You know, they show in the documentary how many Instagram followers they have and on Twitter and other platforms like that. So he's almost gone there. And although maybe he's not playing at a higher level of football, he might have a better career longevity. You know, he's now a bit more of a household name than plenty other players in that division, and even a few divisions higher. Someone like Ollie Palmer's the same. I mean, I've seen on YouTube these guys getting interviews with other, like whether it be podcasts or TV shows or YouTube channels. You know, these are now the names that people want to chat to, and there's a lot of excitement around it too.
Yeah, but also getting asked questions like, oh, what's Rob like? What's Ryan like? Like, do you ever text each other, things like that? So, you know, they're getting into this public eye from things outside of football. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, what, you know, if these opportunities are coming for you, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Especially like they might be coming towards the end of their career or at that stage where they want to be a part of something new and create that new trajectory for Wrexham. They might not ultimately be there at the end of it, but they can kind of say, you know, we were the flag bearers, or, you know, breaking ground on creating this snowball type effect. If you can increase the things that you can get out of that on a personal level, for sure. Like, why not?
Yeah, I think as much as they're living the dream, like every, you know, young boy typically wants to grow up and be a professional sportsman or footballer in particular. It's very popular in England and Wales and stuff. At that level, you are getting paid, you are doing it as a living, but probably not excessive amounts in the fact that you can retire and you're set for life. You know, the money's not extraordinary. You know, people see Premier League salaries and they're wowed by it, and those guys earn a substantial amount. When you start dropping down the divisions, you do earn a decent living, but yeah, you're not kind of set for life, or, you know, your kids and whatnot, they don't need to grow up not having to work or anything because of the money you've made. But I think a move like what he's done is quite intelligent. I think if you look at, maybe, this is just one way to measure it maybe, but his like Instagram followers, if you compare it to other players within the team or even at his last club before he was at Wrexham, how many do they have? They're playing at a higher division, and yet Paul Mullin's got this much larger profile. So as a player, away from the football, I guess you would have these other decisions to make. And, you know, if you were in his position, what would you go for?
Oh, I mean, definitely, it's highly appealing, I think, as I say, to almost take that step backwards, to have this long-term or over-branching idea of I'm taking a step forwards. I mean, you know, from the other side of the world, I would challenge most fans to name 5 players that currently play in Division 2.
Yeah,
You'd struggle. Which obviously he was maybe doing prior. If I said name a few players in the National League, well, you're likely to now name, the majority of the Wrexham squad, purely because of this, reach or this global touch points that we have throughout things like the documentary series. They are all over social media. We see them in news that isn't even relating to football now. It's in, everyday sort of news that the royal family are coming across. Wrexham's thrown in there. Oh, you got to meet, all these kind of things, which, as I say, gives you these opportunities long term.
It's interesting that we mentioned about like Ryan Reynolds and Rob putting Wrexham on the map and giving people this awareness of, the city and the club. But it's not just us, and it's not people around the world. It's actually like royalty. It's King Charles who's gone down there, and he's met them too. I mean, whether or not he might be a big Deadpool fan or whatnot.
Obviously has those ties with Wales as well.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that he kind of goes down there, and it's even someone in his position where, worlds apart from us, he's still feeling the same. I wonder if he's watched the documentary and whatnot, what his thoughts are. But yeah, it's just a whole new set of opportunities for people to get out of football that's completely unrelated to football.
Yeah, I guess what is the sustainability long term of, investing in the infrastructure, bringing in royalty, having all these, extensive deals if they don't get out of the National League anytime soon. Bringing in these players who, obviously we don't know specific salaries, but we know that, for the majority, they're earning more than the average player.
Yeah, definitely.
Or they are towards that higher end earners in the league. Is this a long-term thing that they can continue? And irrespective of how high they go, Wrexham are now almost like, this glamour club within the lower leagues.
They're like the flavour of the month, or kind of like the hot new thing, where they must be drawing in so much interest, not just for the local fans, but globally. Like you mentioned about naming players, and if you're just from any other country and you go on holiday to Wales, you'd almost be thinking, oh, it'd be good to go to Wrexham and get to a game down there and see those guys, because, they might be the only team you can name, or all of a sudden you've got an interest from that documentary. But yeah, I think they probably have to get promotion. There's a lot of investment that Ryan and Rob have done. I don't know the full financials of the club, but bringing in players from higher leagues, you'd expect to have to at least match those salaries, or they're paying a bit above average, as you said, just to interest those players. So yeah, it must be at a point where if they do get promoted, they would probably have all the same benefits as they do now, given like this A-list ownership. But then they're playing at a higher league, which naturally has the broader audience already, and you do get better income from those TV revenue and then the endorsements and whatnot as well. Well, let me just put you in the position you are, Paul Mullin, your top goal scorer, League 2. Do you then think to yourself, oh, I want to go up, I want to play League 1? Naturally, I guess you can get a better contract, get a few better years football and push yourself as a player? Or do you go back down, which naturally on a footballing level, you're just going to be coasting, you are the best player in the league essentially, but you do have all these opportunities. Like what do you think? You and I were both kind of football guys. Would you make the same decision as him?
I mean, it is difficult because I think he was kind of living away from his family so much, and that was something he listed as a major driving force, is, having the opportunity to go to Wrexham, take away everything to do with football, money, all the rest of it. It allowed him to live close to his family and be where he wanted to be. So I think it's always difficult, you know, to kind of put your own spin on things, because ultimately if a player wants to go for family reasons, I think, you know, we're in this day and age where irrespective of your profession, we want to encourage that. In that instance, it's one of them where like...
But take away his specific personal reasons. I mean, would you sacrifice, you know, you're a professional footballer, but you're sacrificing football aspect of your career where you're now like, you know, every player who's looking to be the best player they can be, he's kind of gone, oh, actually, I'll drop down. But then maybe long term, he's setting himself up with a lot more.
Yeah, I think realistically that, you know, I think he's done like a smart move there, and he's done maybe the right move. You know, if you want to use that word, maybe not. But as you say, it's that long-term picture. Maybe he's getting towards that age now where he's like, hey, contract length, money on that contract, things I may be able to do post-football as a result of making this move, all kind of tie in with that. And maybe as a result of this new ownership that otherwise might not have provided that opportunity.
Okay, no, that's good. I thought it'd just be good to get the aspect. I think the documentary, the nature of it being done by these two superstars, I know a lot of people I know have watched it who have never followed football prior to that. This is kind of their first insight. There's a lot of things they might not understand about it and think maybe a move that he's done is, you know, quite natural. But for me, watching it when they brought it up in the documentary, oh, this guy's top goal scorer in this league. My first thought was, oh, he's not going to drop down. Like, no one does that, especially if he's like top goal scorer, he'd be looking to go up.
Yeah, almost, and like, yeah, maybe the way that it was filmed or whatever, like, you know, all these people tweeting or tagging or whatever, saying, sign Paul Mullin, Paul Mullin, Paul Mullin. It's just like, so we tried, but we got this guy instead. Yeah. And you're just kind of expecting that thing to happen, but it was like, oh, we actually got him.
Yeah, like I was actually never expecting it, and I thought, you know, if he does come, they'd have to put like a lot of money on the table. Or what kind of draw card does someone like that need to bring in that guy? So I thought it was worth touching on, you know, from a football perspective, just to get, you know, your thoughts as well as my own on this, because
from a football perspective, it probably was a bit of a backward step, or you know, a long term, maybe not the perfect move. But yeah, I think a lot of things external to that have played a factor.
All right, well, that basically wraps up everything I want to say today about Wrexham. As I said, we've talked about Wrexham before. If you haven't already seen that, we'll link it in the description or in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts, what you thought of the documentary if you've seen it. If you've been watching Wrexham week to week, let us know how Paul Mullin's going. He's certainly the biggest name that we kind of got out of there. Ollie Palmer's there too. He was a big signing. But yeah, give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when we're going to upload these videos and be the first to engage with that. Anything further?
No, you touched on everything. Okay. That was Red Mate.
Yeah, Red Mate. Thanks, guys.